Hi Hi, everyone. Here we are. The last week. Days to get this done. So let's see if we have any questions. And I don't know if I have anyone with me. Can you let me know if Lourdes or Teresa are here? They could be trying to wrap up their stuff here. One question I have is the spacing on anything and everything. Yeah, I know, right? So Kim, oh wow. Someone else is talking about something there in the chat that distracted me. Kim, so on the spacing, they say recommended. Could you go over 65 pages? Yeah, probably. I won't get kicked out. I wouldn't recommend it. That's just me. Just me. I try to stick to 65 pages. Now on the spacing, I'll tell you, I'll just be honest with you. I am not double spacing the questions or the sub questions. I think it's actually more difficult for a reader to read, and I would end up with like a couple of paragraphs of narrative with everything double spaced. In my tables, I do have them spaced at 1.15. Okay, so there is a gap, but everything in the narrative outside of a table, I do have double spaced, except for my logic model, which I have. Well, the logic model is single space and it's in 10 font. That's the only way I could do it. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to, you know, uh, since we've been under these rules of the recommended, and they send you to that link, in the past, we've done multiple gear ups and SSS the same manner, and it wasn't kicked out or anything like that. So I'm just telling you what I'm doing. You do what makes you feel more comfortable, but I think it's really, really impossible to get everything in that you want to make sure is addressed if everything has to be double space. That's just cray cray. Okay. So I don't know if is helpful, but that's what I'm doing. Okay. Do you happen to know if we're finding the congressional districts of our institution or community-based organization or the congressional districts where our target schools are located? I believe the form, again, this is a submission question. I don't know if we have Lourdes or Teresa with us. Does Donna, can you tell her, Leah, if they're whether
No, I don't see either one on the.
okay. Okay, Grant. Okay. So again, if anyone out there knows this information, please let me know. Either raise your hand or put it in the chat. Um, I'm going by what I remember Lourdes telling me that Lourdes was telling me it was by the address of the entity submitting. That's what she told me. And you may want to look on the form if they ask for an address. Has anyone started working on their forms where they list the target schools? Did they ask for an address? And I know if they asked for an iPad's number, then they could pull up the address themselves. I want to tell you, I'm not exactly sure how to answer this question. I know that I've heard Lourdes tell me in the past that it was based on the entity's address that would be submitting, and that was a concern because, sometimes um, your institution or your agency is submitting, but then in one congressional district, and your target schools, like for me, when I worked for the UTSA, um, University of Texas San Antonio, we were in one district, and then 3 hours away were our target schools. So what of that? So I don't know for sure. I'm just going by Lourdes said in the past that it's been based on your institution or agency's address, not the target schools. I have no idea where I'm going to put the references. Any ideas? Why do you need references? Is my question. Whenever I bring up data, okay, on grants.form, they ask for applicant, CD, and target area. CD, what's C? Oh, congressional district. Okay, so they asked for both. Okay, so someone put in the chat. Thank you for that. Someone said they want both the address of the entity and the target schools. Okay, great. Okay, references. I don't have any references. So when I bring up data, in the needs section mainly, that's where it is. I go ahead and put my source, my site, the source of the data and when it was, the source and the data, the source and when it was compiled or retrieved right away there. When I quote a target school counselor or it's information from a needs assessment that they did of the target schools, I put it right in within the narrative at the very end. I put in parentheses source. Um, I don't have any research cited, so I don't feel a need for references. I don't think they're required. I do know that you can put a bibliography, I believe. You can upload that separately. But again, I was trying to, you know, figure out what I would put there. I don't think it's required. Okay, anyone out there have any ideas? It's not required. It's just sometimes they throw in that language when they talk about different, grants in general, because I know for Title III, a Gear Up, they want resumes. For Title III, they want bibliographies and references. It's a different kind of grant, so I think sometimes when they're talking that way or they put it in the RFP, it's as an example of what you could do. I mean, you could. I just don't have any examples, but I believe you would upload that separately, or if you want to, if you have a page, like some of my grants came in at 64 pages, so I guess I could put that reference page maybe in the back. But as a reader, I sure as heck don't want to keep looking in other areas. So I try to give my reader everything there at once if I can, right? How old is too old when citing statistics for a school district? The rule of thumb is you don't want to have data that's any older than 3 years. And if you're in a situation or a place where, hey, that's the latest available data, then say so. Please note this is the latest. I say that anyway under all of my tables, even if it was data that was a week old. I go ahead and put when I re for what period of time that data is for. And then, yeah, you can upload as an attachment, right? And then I put when it was retrieved. And then I go ahead and put my, please note, this is the latest available data for each comparison area. So even if for some reason the latest data you can get is, 2022 or 2023, it's 3 years, or 2022, a lot of our state and national data, that's as recent as it is. So put that there, but put that you retrieved it, April 2026, meaning that you pulled it up or found it. Not that, otherwise someone could say, oh, she pulled this up, 20, I don't know when she pulled it up. So make it obvious by putting that disclaimer under every table that this is the latest available data for each comparison area, and make sure that even if it cross whether it's a year old or borderline 3 or maybe even 4 years old, put there what that you retrieved it and that you retrieved it within the last, year that you pulled the data. Okay. And thanks to everyone for, helping each other out in the chat about where you could do the bibliography and all that good stuff if you want to. Is your logic model a full page? Oh, you bet. It's a full page, like barely on the page. And I had to do 10 font. That's what I did. I wanted to force it. I just, that's me. I want it to be part of the evaluation plan. And it does. It takes up the whole thing. It's a 10 font. Yep, I'm claiming it. 10 font. It still looks good. Um, you could put it as an attachment, but honestly, I don't think the readers will read the attachments. A lot of these attachments are just to check off, yep, there, some of them like the budget narrative, right? For 5 years. Okay, it's there. The abstract, it's there. But in my, unless they're going to do something drastically different, the readers don't see the attachments. Okay, they don't see the attachments. So if you tell a reader, look at in the attachments, they're not going to see it. So you might at least describe it in your narrative, in your evaluation plan, okay? Should we include any statistics for students with disabilities, or will that be seen as a diversity issue? I don't think you need to even go there. We did have, I have a dear friend who their talent search program was completely based on serving students with disabilities. Been that way for almost 30, 40 years. Now moving forward, I would recommend, hey, just open it up. Now, internally, you do you. If you want to favor or give extra points in selection internally for a student who had disabilities over a student who doesn't, that's fine, but I probably wouldn't put it in the proposal. So I would not put any statistics unless you happen to, in passing, I think I don't even mention the ethnic background of the students anymore in my target area description. I mean, I could, or the target. I think in some of them I mentioned the breakdown of the target area, but I don't go. If you're going to bring that up to show the need, Don't make it look like you cannot make it look like it's going to play any part in selection. If that makes any sense. I know in SSS, that counts toward the 2/3. So that's a kind of a little different story. And of course, we have disability SSS programs, but I wouldn't. I wouldn't, not because it might be seen as a diversity issue, but um, sometimes in the past, maybe I've said, well, if you think that's bad for, the graduation rate for everybody, look how it is for disabled students. I used to do that all the time with, if you think it's that bad for everybody, look what it is for Hispanic males. I did that all the time in the past, but now I'm not going to go there. So I wouldn't go there, and you don't have to go there. Okay. No, I don't think it does. Okay, so there we go. Okay, I'm going to answer that live. I'm needing to know about how you are doing the CEP schools. Right now, I have the true readings for FR, free and reduced lunch, and a chart. But you said we could do them as 100% if they are CEP school. I did not know if you just listed school district, then if you listed the individual middle schools. Okay, I believe you're talking about in the needs section, the first question talks about, tell me how many low-income families are in the target area or the high percentage of free reduced lunch students in the target schools. So hopefully, if you want, a platinum answer, you can answer both of those. But I have a couple of clients where, for whatever reason, they can't show the 150% poverty level for the families, but they do have it in the target schools. Either way, let's say you have both. You need to break down. If you've got six target schools, then you need to list it for each target school, and if they are, and I believe a CEP school, I think I know what you mean, but I don't remember what it stands for because I'm kind of brain dead right now. Um, I believe those are schools that because they have a certain percentage of free and reduced lunch, they just go ahead and say everybody gets free and reduced lunch. Well, I don't know if you have time to do it, but I like to go ahead and find out or say, hey, that's great, 100%. But you know what? What was the actual percentage to make you go ahead? I appreciate y'all making it 100%, but where was it? Or where did you stop counting? And I kind of like to use that rather than the 100% if I can. And so it doesn't say 100%, 100%, 100%, 100% compared to the state or the national rate. But if it is, then that's fine. And I don't know if that's your question, but yes, if they are labeled as 100%, do it. If you could dig around for about a minute and find out what the actual percentage is, so that you could use that instead, okay. But if it's going to take too long or they don't have it or they say, well, I'll get it to you next week, and you're like, no, that's not going to work, then just use the 100. And you can mention at the bottom in case someone's, this is a school that's been designated, blah, 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 to receive that. And that can explain kind of, people going, huh? What are you talking about? How can they all be that way? With the federal extension of the digital accessibility deadline to next year, are these grants proposals still beholden to the 4/24/2026 deadline for compliance? That's a good question. I saw that they pushed it back, so I think we actually have more time to do that. And again, that's more of an institutional issue with your institution's IT and your institutional agencies set up. It's not specific to, so it's nothing you can do. It's your institution. Okay. But there has been an extension, and I believe it's past that. I believe they pushed it to 2027. But that really is something that your institution or agency, it's nothing that you can do at all. It's they have to be in compliance. Um, and I do have a more detailed response to this that I will Leah or Don remind me to get that to you all, and we'll post it. Um, I guess in something, right? One of the groups, or I guess I could upload it in a folder or to this, but this is, again, I know they might have mentioned it during a COE training, but that's an institutional thing or agency thing. Nothing anyone on the call right now can actually implement, and it has been kicked. So your institution or agency will have to be in compliance when it does kick in, and they were given an extension. So I wouldn't worry about it right now. The checklist asks for a bibliography. Um, I don't know. I mean, you could put that there. I mean, but I don't think it's required. Does it ask for it by name? Ladies, if someone can check the RFP. See, I know they could be a checklist. They also put a checklist for resumes and things like that. Um, so we've never had to do that before. So let's see. Are you seeing the website? My website? Can you see my website? Or are you seeing the website for which one are you talking about? Someone put a chat there. So let me know if y'all see where it asks specifically for a checklist, or does it say in parentheses other attachments? It could say bibliography, comma, resume, comma, job description sometimes. Okay, we'll look for that. I do you think the word demographic will be okay to use? I'm not trying to give them any DI language to block our grant. I don't know if I used I might have said something like the population. Um, I gave like here's the target area, here's the population, and it consists of the following if I gave a breakdown. I don't think demographics by itself is negative as long as you keep it away from any kind of preference or in your selection. Um, of all, in the selection process. I don't think I use that word at all. Um, Again, if you don't feel comfortable or if anything is bothering you, you do you and you replace it with something else, or ask yourself, do I really need to use that word at all? Okay. But, it is, when people say it's the demographics, just make sure to keep it away from selection or preference. Do you have a curriculum map, an activity map? Would you still use a logic model? Well, I guess in my evaluation plan, I would always use a logic model. That's my preference. A curriculum map or activity map. Maybe you have that somewhere in your plan of operation, maybe. Um, I guess you could put it in your evaluation plan, but again, I don't know, I could be thinking of an activity map or curriculum map. My interpretation of that might be different. Is it kind of like a flow chart or something like that? I may put that if I have room in the plan of operation. Um, so it all depends. To me, a logic model is very specific to inputs, outputs, internal goals, outcomes, short, that there's a there's a setup, a logic model has specific steps. Whereas I think a curriculum map or activity map, correct me if I'm wrong, might have different steps. So they could be two different things that may sometimes overlap. Okay, so just keep in mind, that, don't call it a logic model if it doesn't have those components. Should we include the logic model in the attachment? Okay, you do you, but I feel compelled to have it in the evaluation plan. Why? Because I don't think anyone reads the attachments. And I know the reader in the past has never had access to the attachments. Okay, they've just had because they score what's in the 65 pages. They score not even, well, they would have to look at the priorities, I guess, or maybe they check off since the priorities aren't going to be scored. I have to keep telling myself that. The priorities are not being scored, but we have to have them, right? And we have to include mention of them in the appropriate places. So if you put the logic model as an attachment, I don't know if it's going to see the light of day. Maybe, but I know in the past, as a reader, I'm given the 65 pages to score, and the logic model is not going to be in there, right? If you put it as an attachment, just make sure you talk about it. And you can say it's in the attachment, but you still need to talk about it, right? You can talk about it, but I prefer to have it in the narrative because I don't think they're going to read the attachments. Are you including a GEPA statement even though it's not required? Actually, I am simply because And I kind of blew it off until, a dear sweet client said, "Hey, my people here are filling out the form." And then Lourdes shared the screenshot, I think, last time. And there's this form, it's asking, "Hey, we don't have to do a separate GEPA attachment, thank God, right? But we do have a little question on one of the forms that says, does this," something I'm paraphrasing, um, "does this narrative address GEPA? And if so, what pages?" And I was like, "Oh man, what pages?" And I had it thrown in there just like an applicant community support section where I said all the facilities and buildings are accessible per GEPA. And I said, "You know what? I better put that statement in the plan of operation under, where we talk about the plan to identify, recruit, and select." I added it like additionally after selection based on talent search eligibility, and I put additionally the director selection is based, we do not. I just copied the statement, GEPA, and then the other time that I mentioned it, I said, "Well, let me go ahead and talk about when we provide services." So still in the plan of operation, that question about the plan to deliver services. At the very end, before I went into the next question, I put, "Please note, the XYZ Town Search Project provides services to students without regard to blah, 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 blah," and I put the statement there. So just before we started the meeting here, one of my clients said, "Hey," and I said, "I know what you're going to ask me. You're going to ask me, where is GEPA?" I said, "Do a search because it might have moved around, but I'll tell you exactly where you're going to find it. You're going to find it here, here, and here, but do a search for GEPA and it'll tell you the 3 pages that it's on." And so that's what they're going to do. They're going to plug in that. You don't have to do it 3 times, just do it one time. But, I just felt better putting it under selection to let them know, hey, we're GEPA when it comes to selection and also when we serve students. And the third one was like, hey, and all our facilities and buildings are GEPA compliance. Okay, last time for the needs section, I used single family female, but this time I used a combo of male and female single families. And we're showing a need for all areas, but number one, should I use it? All the other tables show 100% need. Well, I don't know what 100% need means, but okay, I will tell you that table number one, and I'm dealing with this with a client. You can't, okay, for table number one, it specifically asks for the percentage of families at 150% of the poverty level, the trio definition. That's low income. We must use that definition. So you've got to use that. One of my clients, I think they were using some other poverty indicator. And I said, "Look, if you don't have it for that question as is at 150% of the poverty level, that's a specific table or a combination of tables. You have to do some adding up, that kind of thing. If you're not showing a need there, don't try to force it. Don't substitute it with something else because it's not the trio definition, right? So bless that, bless it, let it go." But then in that first question, it says, or high percentage of students at the target schools that are getting, free and reduced lunch. So shift all the attention and don't have 2 tables there for question number one. Just have the one table and go on and on and on about the high number of free and reduced lunch students at the school. And then if you want, you could say after you give that answer, you could say more alarming under the table is the high number of single family females or combination of whatever, whatever you have that is not exactly the 150% for the families because it says 150% of a certain percentage of the families in the target area, are or or below the 150% poverty level. Um, so if you have something else that you were trying to use for the first part of question number one, don't go straight to the second part, beef that up, and then add whatever poverty or income information you have and lay it on thick after you talk about the number of low income of students that are on free or reduced lunch. there in table number one, your new table number one. Okay, so you won't have two tables, you'll have one table, or you possibly could give another table that has this other information, but don't try to change the definition. I need ideas on how to reduce my pages in the grant narrative. Is it okay to use things like, oh, yeah, I do that all the time. What is that called? I can't think. Is it an ampersand? I don't know what that little. I love it. Donna hates it, I know, when I do that, but I love it. I've been known to do that, especially during the grant proposals to make things fit in the charts and abbreviations, change margins. I try not to change too much margins. The only time I changed a margin was when I did the logic model. I really went crazy there. I figured, hey, if I'm going to go 10 font, I'm going to make that margins crazy in the header and footer. I mean, it is at the very edge of the page, but that's the only page I went crazy on. I'll tell you some things here. In between my paragraphs, I may make it eight font spacing instead of 12. The other thing that I do is that, yeah, wherever I can, in between paragraphs, make it 8 font. And then again, in my tables and charts, I do 1.15, not 1.5, but 1.15. The other thing that's helped a lot, is that, I look at this paragraph or this page and I look at it and I'm like, ugh, I don't know what to cut out. It all sounds good, but I think I'm repeating myself. So what do? I take that paragraph, I go to Chat GPT and I say, hey, sometimes I just need I tell it, I said, I am over by two sentences or one sentence or half a sentence before I need to spill, or I need to get this down instead of three paragraphs, I need it to go into two. Help me. And I don't want to lose any meaning. And you could say, hey, don't kick out any mention of the absolute connection to absolute priorities, but help me summarize this because I am running out of room and it's going to do it for you. Now, check it out. Make sure, I have to check it to make sure it doesn't lose the meaning. 9 times out of 10, I'm like, oh, this sounds a lot better and gets to the point and doesn't lose anything and gives me space. Okay. So do that. Do that. So you're not asking to rewrite it. You're saying, hey, this is what I wrote, but you know what? And I'm bad about that. I tend to go on and on and on because I want to make sure I get my point across, right? Well, now's the time to get something to edit you down because you got some new focuses and, on top of everything that you normally do, now you got to, keep mentioning certain things. Do we use Department of Education or Department of Labor when references to the grantor? That's a good question. And I don't know when I have mentioned them. I'm trying to think where that would come up. Um, I think I mentioned, you know what I did? I said the federal priorities. And also when we talked about in the evaluation plan, mentioning the performance measures, I say the federal performance measures, but you could there's nothing wrong with putting ED/DOL or just ED. They understand that we're in the transition mode. So I don't think it's going to be awful if I probably would go with ED for Department of Ed. Remember, Department of Ed is ED, not DOE. It's like nails on a chalkboard whenever I see somebody type in DOE or say DOE. That's Department of Energy. It's ED. So ED, ED, ED. Okay, reference it to that. If at all, I don't think I maybe reference it one time when I'm talking about the performance measures, or maybe, the Department of Ed, or I say federal or mandated objectives. Not that you have to avoid it. For GEPA, you simply check the box. Yes, that says it. And then they're asking for the page numbers. That's what two of my clients have already told me, that they want to know the page numbers too. So, Gayla, I think you can decide. I'm trying to think when I bring it up. You could use federal, you could use ED. I don't think it's going to be a problem either way. Is it still okay to use the logic model in our evaluation plan? I've been saying, me, only me. I prefer logic models in the evaluation plan, not as attachments. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just letting you know that I don't think the readers will have access to the attachments. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but they typically don't have access to it. So even if you make it an attachment, then make sure you talk about it. At least spend one little paragraph talking about the logic model, describing the logic model, what's in it, that, I mean, mention it. I know they're saying it's not required, but I tell you what, it's something that it's just, I just can't imagine not having it at least mentioned. And that's what I did for SSS. I mean, because it was in the separate, only because, you know what, I knew the reader was going to read it because they had to read the CPPs, right? So I knew they were going to see it there. So I was okay with not having it in the actual narrative 65 pages of the evaluation plan. I did talk about it, but I said, hey, you're going to see it in the CPP, and that's where they saw it, and that's where it got scored. This time, I don't, again, I can't guarantee either way that they're either going to have access to it. So I would just include it if you can. If not, at least talk about it. What should be included in the three-page absolute priority narrative and the three-page invitational priority narrative? Are there any examples? Cindy, and I think Donna or Leah, could y'all direct or put the link, if you don't mind, in the chat to the folder? I believe I provided a folder last week or a couple of weeks ago. I think I put it in the general one. I know we did it in the grant writing one. But Cindy, there's no format. It's not going to get scored. So what you want to make sure is you look at in the RFP the things that are mentioned there, especially for the absolute priority, those three things that they mentioned. Now you don't have to provide access to those three things listed, three parts of the absolute priority. You don't have to. You can just pick one. But I think if you look at it, you can see how you can um, uh, stress or list activities that provide expanded access to those things. So that's the number one thing. You only have 3 pages, so you can't get too detailed. So you definitely want to state, that there's a need for it. You don't have to use any statistics, but you could say, as stated in the needs section, the details are there, but there's a need for it. And these are the parts of the priority that the project's going to focus on expanding access to, and then talk about how they're going to do that, and then end it with how you're going to evaluate and mention that you're going to have an internal goal to measure the activity. Okay, that's what I would do. Okay. And then for the invitational priorities, more on, how you provide students access, meaning the tools, it mentions the LERs, the platforms that you have access to, maybe you have free access to, or that you'll have to purchase. And that's why when they gave us the extra money in the budget, I went ahead and put money for, some of these talent marketplace resources. Believe me, I try to get the free stuff if I can, and some of y'all have access to Zillow, right? Is it Zillow for free, or to Big Future, those platforms to build. I mean, you're not supposed to create, a a digital wallet, but you should have access or figure out how to get students access to those platforms already built, either free or through a reduced cost through y'all. But you're not supposed to build it. You see what I'm saying? You're expanded access with the purpose of helping these kids prepare for college and careers. Okay, so everything should, in a way, be twofold. We're doing everything for two things: to get them into college and also prepare them for careers. Can anyone in Alabama give some guidance as to how you're dealing with the rigorous, with the Alabama diploma only having locally defined advanced endorsements? Are you using option A with any specific details? No data since this is new. So again, you've got 6 different definitions for rigorous, right? So one of the definitions is to say what Alabama says, what the state is utilizing. There's also a definition, the last one is where you could use advanced placement courses, the percentage of students that graduate from high school have taking 2 or more advanced placement courses and taking the test and scoring 3 or higher on at least 2 of them. So you could do that separate from it. Well, you know what, Rachel, that's great that they don't offer the AP. So that, I mean, and I know what you're saying. Well, if they don't offer it, how are they going to get it? Well, again, when you tell me they don't offer, then I automatically say, well, there's your need, because you can say what the part of that question, the needs section is like, does the school even offer this? Or if they do offer it, which a lot of us are stuck saying, yeah, like here in Texas, yeah, they all do AP. So I can't bank on that. I can't go on and on how awful it is that the students don't have access. So this is actually a positive that they don't have AP, right? I have to say, yeah, there's AP, but look, so few students are receiving, are participating, and even fewer graduate because of X, Y, and Z, meaning that the schools are not providing the support. They don't offer enough courses. They're not letting students know about it. In that question, you have to blame the school because it says, you need to stress the lack of support from the schools helping these kids get the rigorous secondary school program of study. So in that case, if you gravitate to that and show that there's a desperate need, then you'll get full points for the need. Now, the question is, you're probably thinking, well, how the heck am I going to meet that objective if it's not offered? Well, then again, that's something I hope that you are refunded so you can worry about that because, you want to die now or later. I want to die later. So I might latch on to that and say, hey, it's so bad, they don't even offer it anymore and go on and on about that, you know? And then you'll have to, worry about, well, fine, I got funded now. How do I make it happen? Well, then since it's probably a very low percentage, you're going to have a very, very, very low objective set. So you could, planning in the future, you could uh, work with specific students and try to connect them to just like it kind of falls into play with this absolute priority. The absolute priority wants you to do high impact tutoring in things that are like dual enrollment AP. So it goes hand in hand. So what we're supposed to be doing in the future, again, talent search, I'm thinking high impact or high quality means a low percentage of students getting that service. So I can focus that. So if I have like a very low, low, low percentage as my baseline and I bump it up just a little bit more, I may be able to meet that objective in the future if I implement the high impact tutoring and make the connections to dual enrollment and AP, which the absolute priority is wanting us to, and hope for the best. Maybe I don't get it, but at least I'm there to have the fight. Because right now, if you possibly use, like in Texas, the first definition, which they say rigorous equals regular, I'm not showing a need. Or now where you're having trouble where every district has and no one has the data, your hands are tied. Is this something you prefer to do? No. That last one about AP is something I know it's the hardest thing in the world to meet as an objective, but it'll always show you need. It'll get you funded. Now, will it keep you funded is another issue. But remember, on the prior experience points moving forward or always, that objective on your APR is only worth 1.5 points because it's so rigorous. So it's not like you're going to lose 3 points. So sometimes I tell my clients, hey, let's get you funded, and then you give it the old college try, to see if you can meet it. But I want you to be okay with never meeting that objective as long as we get you funded by showing it as a need. And again, you're going to get better at it and you're going to realize I can't provide these services to everybody, but I can pick or a certain school or certain grade level, a certain group of seniors maybe to make sure that that number, because again, it's going to be a very low baseline. So that means your objective is going to be low as well. It is kind of doable, but you already have an advantage by telling me that they don't even offer it. That's actually a positive, believe it or not. I would kind of love that problem in my needs section. Mine is like, no, they offer it, so then I got to be, digging into a list of terribles of how the target schools are not living up to the expectation to help these students with academic support. We have to blame the schools. It's a blame game here. I know that talent search is in the home stretch, but do you have any new insights for the EOC programs? Hey, um, yes, I mean, everything. Let me tell you, my EOC clients out there who I know have been neglecting you, your proposal is going to be kick A because of the drama I've gone through with talent search. So, so what I would recommend is, you know, um, you need to, that needs section. Question number three is all about the invitational absolute priority. And that question number three, and I'm paraphrasing, tell us about your the lack or the need for training for individuals in the target area for jobs, basically. I'm paraphrasing. And before I always struggled, like, what do they mean? What am I supposed to do? Now, because of the priorities, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go ahead and find out, for everything that they want us to do in the absolute and invitational priorities, I'm going to turn it around and make that get someone working with these students or at the workforce center or these clients to tell me, hey, we're going to do this activity. Can you help me by telling me why there's a need for it right now? And so I'm kind of working backwards. So EOC, what you need to do is write your priorities first. Write them first and then use the things that you're going to say you're going to do in the priorities when you go to your needs section. Of course, your plan of operation, but when you go to your needs section, look at that third question about, how can you prove that the target area residents that there's a lack of training or education for jobs. And that'll be a perfect segue into every activity you bring up. See who you can find to tell you or get a quote that says, yeah, that's a need because we're going, this is what we're needing, or this is the situation that we're in. Some people have told me, like, employers or even newspaper articles or that are online now that they can't find qualified, skilled staff. They're having to bring them in from overseas. That could be an example. But I definitely would do the priorities first. I definitely would do the budget second. And I would make sure that when you increase your costs, because you probably have to do that to maintain or just, serve more students to keep the money that you have. Any extra money, haha, that you have needs to go into not so much the tutoring, but into supplies for access to some of these technology tools. Or if you get it for free, that would be great. The other thing you want to do, EOC, is your applicant and community support section needs to be revamped. Instead of talking about how HR helps you, how facilities helps you internally, I'm sure they do, don't get me wrong, marketing helps you. You're going to have to actually beef up or focus on internally, if you're an agency or a college, what departments on campus or programs on campus can help with the absolute priorities with is there a career center? Is there a workforce center on campus? Talk big about them. Those are entities or departments that in the past I barely mentioned in passing. And now, oh no, now in order to make room for some of them, I have to bless and kick to the curb, dear marketing department, dear HR department, and instead replace them because of space wise with the information about, what the career center does and what the workforce center does, or any other workforce related adult education program on your campus or agency, claim it. And what you want to do is when you list out what they can offer, what I would recommend, again, go to ChatGPT and upload the priorities, the RFP telling you what they're looking for, and then upload your bullets as to what you're saying the workforce center is going to do and ask it to align the bullets to kind of match them up with whether it's an absolute or invitational priority that you can put at the end of the bullet, like provides career assessment um, uh, for participants. And so it would tell me, and I'm learning now from it. I'm like, okay, I got it now. But at first I was like, I don't know if it's absolute or invitational. What about this? What is this? And it went, oh, that's absolute priority. So I put it in parentheses at the end. And then access to LERs or digital wallets, access either reduced or free, and then that would be invitational priority. So I'm starting to learn from it. So you want to make sure you bring out those, and Talent Search, you can do this too. You want to stress that connection. So just don't list, oh, Career Center or even financial aid office. The standard does this, this, and this. Take that through Chat GPT and say, hey, how can you align this to at least one of the priorities? And at the end, it'll rephrase it and put, the parentheses. And again, you got to check it. You got to make sure. And you're like, yeah, that's about right. That sounds right. That sounds right. You will know. And that's kind of how you learn to tell the difference between the two. Then when you talk about, again, talent search as well, about the in the community, then you want to also, maybe the food bank and the homeless shelter. Maybe those go away and make room for the workforce center, the career center, the dress for anything that's career and adult education related. And again, take your standard bullets and throw them through ChatGPT to see how they can align them to the priorities, and they come out very well aligned. And all of it is true. I mean, all of it's like I never thought. Yeah, that's exactly right. I just didn't know how to word it that way. I knew that there was a way I can connect it to the absolute priority, but I just didn't know, and that's the connection there. Okay, so I believe the applicant and community support section for both talent search and especially EOC will be looked at very, 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 very closely. I know I would be looking at that more, and I would not be impressed if you listed 10 internal departments that had nothing to do with the priorities and didn't list anything career related or adult education or for talent search, anything like a dual credit program that your institution offers, distance learning. Those are the buzzwords. And we've never thought of it that way. So I had to, really revamp that section. So again, EOC, do your priorities, um, and look to see that that is going to be the basis for the information you got to gather for section three. Question number three in the needs section. Question number four is where all your baselines should go for all four objectives. So start looking for that. Do your budget, and then at the same time, applicant and community support section. Okay. So hopefully that'll help out and get you going. All right. Has anyone else noticed the program profile form is formatted wrong? Example, line 2, 3, and 7 on target schools fills in automatically if you put a number on any line and populates. Someone said, yeah, just edit the form and insert a text box on those lines. How annoying. That must be so stressful, y'all. So, Jamie, thanks. Hopefully, Kari, you got that answer and you can do that. So, I need to remember that. Just edit the form. Why don't they just make it easier, right? Thanks, y'all. That's why it truly does take a village here to help each other out. Thank you. I'm going to leave that up for a second. And then still lots of confusion on the budget attachments. Yeah, I know. Full narrative, we put a 1 year detailed budget. Yes, inside the 65 pages in your budget section, correct. And on the form, the 424A form, we list total budget in those four boxes for the remaining 4 years. I know it's so confusing this time around, okay? Um, but the budget narrative attachment is a simple copy and paste of your budget for your narrative, but they want details for all 5 years in the attachment. So what a statement at the bottom of the budget says, subsequent years 2 and 5 will mirror budget year one work. Yes, that's exactly what I would do, Jamie. Because you know what? I can't give them a real budget because guess what? A real budget would mean that my salaries are going to go up and insurance is going to go up. And I'm going to show it, and the feds at best are going to give me the same amount of money. So if I did a real budget with detail, I'd always show a shortage starting in year 2, 3, 4, and 5. Heck, by year 5, if I have to go by no carryover and nobody being there because I can't plan the future, but I can, if you plug in a 2 or 3 or 4% salary increase and put in about 15 to 20% on fringe, uh-uh. So the best you could do is just go ahead, like I would do the same. I would take the budget that's in the 1 year budget that's in the 65-page narrative, and yeah, I know it's 3 pages. It's detailed. And then I would just copy and paste and change it to year 2, 3, 4, whatever. I guess they want 5 years. Year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'd give it to them. I probably would give it to them separate. That it's going to be a 12-page document. And then just whenever I could put that statement there at the bottom of every page. I don't think they're going to actually read it. And even the budget that you're putting into your proposal, 65 pages, cannot be your real budget because by the time it gets read, and you get your award letter, they're going to force you to give them a whole new budget because things have, what do they say? Stuff happens. Stuff has happened by the time they award it. It's going to be outdated anyway. So it's not your permanent budget. So I truly believe it's just one of those things where we you just copy and paste. Or you could, I was thinking about, well, maybe I have an Excel. I did an internal budget where I had the first year and years two, three, four, and five on that Excel spreadsheet. You know how we do. Now, it shows where I'm running out of money, so maybe I just need to, cut that off or not show that part. And maybe I could just take the Excel and convert it to PDF and turn it in. Because on the Excel version, I have boxes in between that have pretty much the same narrative that's in the Word document. So, it could be something like that. I don't think there's any wrong way to do it. Just do it. Okay. Let me see here. Okay, so let me answer that. Okay. And do we have any other questions? We have some comments, I think. Okay. Danielle, do you mean the Excel spreadsheet or the Excel spreadsheet, do you mean, or do you mean one of the other attachments where we had like national benchmark data? You could just answer there. Because not everyone gets the Excel spreadsheet, just the clients get, and I think I uploaded, well, and the people who attended the grant writing workshop. If you mean the spreadsheet? Yes, yes, the spreadsheet. Yes, with everything, our first pass on the spreadsheet, we think it's good, and then you always find something wrong, or I find something wrong, or a client finds something wrong, which is fine, and we're constantly improving it. So, bless their hearts, our talent search clients that have been with us from the very beginning have gone through and suffered through 3 or 4 versions of the spreadsheet as we make it better. And then someone who comes around the last minute gets the latest and greatest. And so we're trying to hopefully with EOC, since we always use talent search as a guinea pig, but still you notice there was a difference. Yes, it took us a minute, right? We finally got it together. But yeah. So let's see. If you don't budget for future increases and raises, doesn't that mean you can't give them to staff down the road since not in budget? Oh no. See, this is the deal. So in reality, the best we can hope for is that you will get level funding. If the best we can hope for is to get refunded, right? And then the best we can hope for after that is that they give you the same amount of money every single year. Well, your expenses are not going to stay the same. So, in reality, when you do your annual budget that you send to your program officer every year, you have to go ahead and, if the university says or the agency says, hey, we're going to give these people a 3% raise, and you're like, wait a minute, you can't say, well, I can't do that because I don't have the money for it because I'm not going to get 3%. And when their salaries go up 3%, then your fringe is going to go up as well, that additional amount because it's calculated by their salaries, but also you possibly have a 15 to 20% increase in fringe. I mean, maybe that's just me. Maybe y'all don't have that. Maybe it's 5% or 10% for y'all. Anyways, what you have to do is no, you have to. Those are rules. You have to pay people what the college says they have to be paid. So what you do every year or when you get refunded and do the real budget and they tell you, hey, this is how much you're going to have to pay people and how much higher the fringe is going to be. Well, you just have to take away from other parts of the budget. You have to take away from staff travel to conferences usually. Then I dig into student travel because those are permissible activities. And then I have to take money away from other parts in the budget to make sure I have enough money to pay my staff and fringe. And that's the drama every year. Okay, another year comes by. Well, now they're going to do another increase, but you're still not going to get any federal funds. But I'm not saying that they don't get a raise. They're going to have to get a raise, and you have to pay the fringe benefit bill. What is going to impact is that you have to cut from other parts of the budget every single year. Now, if you have carryover, meaning people, it takes them a while to get hired or a trip doesn't happen, sometimes you can cover those costs in that manner, but you're not supposed to count on that. Like I do have someone who says, "Oh, I know already we're going to have to do a mandated increase. I have some carryover right now, so I'm thinking about like not using it so I can use it in the next year to pay the difference." And I said, "Oh, you can't do that. You can't use carryover as a crutch for, okay, when I need money, because you're not supposed to have carryover. We're supposed to have carryover by accident. So you can't plan on that." So anyway, no, you still have to pay everyone, but you can't budget. What I'm saying is in the budget in the additional budget attachment where they say that they want it for 5 years. You really can't budget for it there because you don't know what the feds are going to give you, except hopefully, for example, if you're asking for, 300,000 a year, that's it. So you say, hey, everything's going to stay the same in the budget that you upload. But in reality, it doesn't. That's why every year there's drama about, let me get my budget. And if you have increase of costs going up, then that means that you've got to take away from something else. Okay. This is not your real budget. Okay. So let's see. Anyone else have any questions? You guys have been really great helping each other out. We did about the spacing. Let me see. I did answer that. Congressional districts, we did that. Okay. I think we answered all the questions, right, Donna? Do you see? Um,
Yeah, I think you did.
wow. That's because y'all were driving the bus and I was just here. Yeah. Okay, great. All right, y'all. Good luck. This is our last one for talent search. I think Monday we'll be talking mainly to EOC folks. So, good luck, everyone. Bless it, let it go. You're gonna drive yourself crazy thinking about, once it's done, you gotta force yourself to think about something else because you can't change anything, okay? So hang in there. This too shall pass, okay? I wish you the best of luck. Um, and anyway, thank you all. Thanks, Donna and Leah. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. And again, good luck.